Sounds like they
That's sort of how it works. Like people have the freedom to come uh, to
seek
us.
you out. Yeah.
Meanwhile, not PM. And you know, I got the policy. And the other thing is, it's just also just a fluke that the language in the Internal Revenue Code. So this is like the tax code. The language they use around life insurance doesn't use the word dollars or like use the word cash. They defined all of the requirements using the word like value. So it's about ratios and things like that. So that's how we've been able to create a life insurance policy entirely in Bitcoin, right? So you pay us in Bitcoin, we pay you back in Bitcoin, and we just follow these rules and ratios so that users get the tax benefits. And look, we we could just not have a company, like when they were drafting this legislative language in like 1986 as part of the Reagan, like second Reagan tax cuts, it could have just been different. But it isn't. So we're able to like run this life insurance company offshore and for it to be an incredible benefit to our users.
Yeah, I think you guys are providing a service that a lot of people would want access to. So would you say like Bermuda, again, they have some tight controls, but they're a little bit more progressive? Do insurance companies trial things there before they bring them on?
Yeah, they have a sandbox, which is what we went through, and then we graduated to a full commercial license. I would say in general, right, like a theme, which is owned by Apollo and Global Atlantic, which is owned by KKR and like, Northwestern Mutual and Mass Mutual have like reinsurers and sidecars there. Um, I'd say they're pretty conservative in general. But they're it's instead of it being a rules-based regime, which is like how US regulation works,
Mhm.
it's more like I forget what it's called. It's a like prudential regime. Basically, what that means is you can just go have a conversation with them. And the conversation we had with them is, hey, yeah, Bitcoin is really volatile relative to the dollar, but we want to run an entire company in Bitcoin. That's what we do. So we accept premiums in Bitcoin, we pay claims in Bitcoin, we do our financial statements, our audited financials, the regulatory filings. We do everything in Bitcoin. And because of that, we're all matched, right? So the price of Bitcoin, I don't even know what the price of Bitcoin is today, which is like my pleasure of thinking about, um, you know, I just know the price of Bitcoin is going to be more in 50 years. So, but anyway, whether Bitcoin is 30,000 or 130,000 or 90,000 or whatever it is, we match all our assets and liabilities, and we do all our regulatory filings in Bitcoin. And we went to them, and that we presented that to them at like the earliest stages, and we said, "This is going to be safe. It's going to be safer than if we like ran a dollar company and like overlaid Bitcoin." So we were able to have that conversation. But actually, except for that fact, which is that we're in Bitcoin instead of dollars or euros or yen or Swiss franc, the company is incredibly conservatively run. Like we're very conservative on underwriting. We're very conservative on like what we do with Bitcoin. We use Anchorage, which we consider like to be the like conservative. Well, Anchorage and Coinbase, and we consider those to be like the conservative options. Our actuarial assumption, like in some ways, or not in some ways, how we presented ourselves to the Bermuda Monetary Authority, which is regulators, we said, we're going to run like the world's most boring life insurance company in every regard,
Except,
except it's going to be in Bitcoin. And they were open to that.
well, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense because if you would think people that have escalated up the risk curve and are in crypto are going to be much more down the risk curve on that side. But for you to kind of pull that back and say, look, like we want to do this the right way. We want to set a high standard. We want to be, the poster child for this, and we want to make sure it's done correctly. All of that's going to be super conservative. We just want to denominate it in Bitcoin so people
Correct.
can, fund in kind and redeem in kind, and the cash payout or the life insurance pays out in kind over the long term. And you guys, Tim, really,
We have a joke that life insurance is the original HODL.
that's funny. It's pretty good.
Uh, but it is in that mantra, or that not that mantra, that mindset that, uh yeah, in some ways I find there's no one more conservative than like a Bitcoin whale. Like they're way out in the risk curve on Bitcoin. But also I think from their perspective, and actually the perspective of a lot of people in crypto, it's like, well, the dollar is failing like over time. Uh, so Bitcoin makes a lot of sense. And before we started recording, Jake, I know we were talking about XRP.
Mhm.
What I find interesting actually is I find that even people who are, I don't want to say maxis, but people who are like big holders of XRP, people who are big holders of BNB, people who are big holders of ETH, or Solana. I know these are all like different things. They do different things, but like, um, I find that almost all of them still tend to have like 10, 20, 30 Bitcoin. And we just sort of speak to that and say like, hey, you're planning to hold this forever. You're like, this is about intergenerational wealth or like pristine collateral. And that's like why we run a life insurance company in Bitcoin. And, we just have all sorts of different users, from uh, Bitcoin maxis to like general crypto folks or maxis and different things. And then now we're starting to have a ton of just like standard issue family offices who are saying like, wait, BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, they're saying have 1, 2, 3, 5% of your net worth in Bitcoin. I don't, I want to put this aside, sort of have this as an inflation hedge, a currency hedge, a political hedge. um, so this like offshore Bermuda based life insurance policy, like completely matches that need.
Yeah. Well, and so how much you guys done multiple rounds for your stuff? I know y'all raised and you got some big backers early on. Are y'all going to continue to raise capital, or you're pretty much good at this point? Like,
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been very fortunate on the capital side. So that's the advantage of having a big idea.
mhm.
So our first seed round was co-led by Sam Altman and Lockie Groom and a bunch of other people. Dylan Field from Figma, Parker Conrad from Rippling, um, Ahmad from Mercury, like just a who's who of Silicon Valley types. Um, so that was like the, I guess, seed one. And a lot of those folks, they like don't necessarily, I guess, care a lot about life insurance, and some of them care about Bitcoin and some of them don't care about Bitcoin. But fundamentally, our pitch is like, we want to build the world's largest life insurance company. We think we can reach 1 billion people, with digital money. And then we're using AI and automation to like build a life insurance carrier. So for a while there, we were an operational, like functioning life insurance carrier, and we had 8 people. Um, so that was the first round, like Sam and a bunch of others. Then we had like a second seed, which was very institutional. So it was like Santander, Northwestern Mutual, MSNAD, which is a big Japanese life insurance company, these amazing insurance investors in New York called Hudson Structure Capital Management. So there's a lot of insurance folks. And the reason we did that is because we knew we wanted our A to be from crypto folks. And the crypto folks sort of can't underwrite, like, whether we're doing doing the actual real math right. So we want to have a bunch of insurance people on the cap table, so everyone knew that like I'm insurance. And then we just had an amazing year last year. So in February last year, we raised a Series A, and that was co-led by Folger and Framework. So Folger are like Bitcoin maxis. They only invest in Bitcoin. They, are the biggest backers of Blockstream, Sigmund Bank. They're like Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. They think everything else is garbage. And then they collab around with Framework, and Framework is like one of the premier firms in like DeFi. So like big backers of Aave and Maple and Chainlink, and they've done just extraordinarily well. and they had never done a co-investment, and we like love this like two angles of it, right? So there's like Bitcoin Max, we have a lot of Bitcoin maxis, and they like know and love Folker, and then we have a lot of like people thinking about the future of financial services through crypto and DeFi, and we have framework. So that was the A. The two of them plus Wences, who's like been called patient zero of like Bitcoin in Silicon Valley. And then about halfway through last year, we had some people who missed their A, like they looked at it but decided not to do it. They came to me in the summer and they said, you know what, we made a mistake. Like you're gonna be one of the most
More money.
like ever. um, like, do you want more money? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I've got years and years of runway, uh, but we'd love to go get a credit rating. Like, if you want to fund like our big ambitions, um, and so then we ended up raising another $82 million in August, and that was Bain Capital, Han Ventures, is just amazing, and Pantera were like the big three, and then Apollo and Northwestern Mutual invested as well. So yeah, we have some great backers. Uh, I guess to your question about if we're going to need more money, I guess we don't need more money. I've got 8 years of runway or something, but if there's someone listening who wants to fund hugely ambitious ideas, like we're always open to a conversation. But yeah, we're pretty set now. We've gone from 8 people to 23 people. We're still a pretty tight team. We're very careful about hiring. And we're continuing to deliver amazing stuff, I think, for policyholders, but also for our investors.
Yeah, I think y'all are crushing it, and will continue to crush it on that side. The way that you guys generate return on Bitcoin is pretty unique. Jason kind of went over that in detail in the first podcast I had with you guys. But at a high level, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm going to take my shot at it. The miners have a bunch of low basis Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And so you guys lend them the Bitcoin to be able